All right. Let's call this meeting to order. May 15th, 2018 at 6:30, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Early. Here. Trustee Strauss.
Present.
Trustee Doherty.
Here.
Trustee Ott.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Here.
Mayor Mahoney.
Here.
Supervisor Nebraska.
Approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of an action item / discussion item I, resolution recognizing Monica Mendoza's years of service to the town.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Strauss.
Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Aye.
Trustee Early. Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes, and motion carries. Next item is an executive session. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute Section 24-6-402, Parens 4, Parens B, with Water Council for the town to answer specific legal questions on the proposed Silver Peaks East Water Resource Credit Agreement and the Blue Lake Water Resource Proposal.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
I remind you guys to turn your speakers on, your microphones on as well.
Trustee Early.
Yes.
Trustee Strauss.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes, and motion carries. All right, and the time is now 6:32, and we will adjourn into the other room.
Sorry, Chris couldn't make it. Stuck in the closet. Wrong turn, got stuck in the closet.
Oh, yeah, let me grab it.
the male bees.
There's only 4 more, so.
There's only 4 more?
Yeah, you
Then,
said,
okay, she doesn't need one.
give it to the council, the people voting.
Mike doesn't need one.
No, he doesn't. I like his popcorn. The bees were in here, leaving pollen around.
Maureen doesn't need one.
What about Larry?
How many do you have now?
3, 4.
Dave, he doesn't need one. Trace McCoy doesn't need one. Monica Mendoza, what do you got? Okay, so, well, there should be only 6 council people. Larry Struck needs one, because he's gonna go. This guy's gonna go.
That's a good thing.
Now, I don't know. Hold
We
on.
need some.
Okay, we have 3 left. Where do you want them?
Wait,
Oh,
there's,
3
yeah,
left?
come on, Aaron. There's one over here too, you and the trustee.
Brett, he's a trustee. Do you have one? Yeah. Dave Ott has one. Okay, so Steve Samey and Michael Duran, 3, and then him. And then Monica can have one. I just said it. Because I like her.
Joanne?
Yeah, she's a town attorney.
You don't want to hit up the administrator? Or you got one?
And then Steve Samey, he's got one already. And then you can give Samantha her one. And who doesn't have one then? Tracy McCoy, chief of police.
Pro Tem, Jacob.
Oh,
needs one.
Jacob Lockhart doesn't have one? Monica can't have one.
You better give them to chief of police.
No, that's Tracy McCoy, his mom is McCoy Dance Studio.
I know, kidding.
No kidding.
Cool.
He's the chief of police here. Okay, so we're good.
Found you.
Who's missing? One.
Nice to meet you.
Who's missing one?
Aspen, that's my granddaughter's name. You're older than 13.
Yeah.
Like 16.
When we named her Aspen, I think in 2nd grade, or no, sorry, no, we named her Danielle.
No.
2nd grade, there's one eye or something else.
Yeah, there's
Baby review.
no after grad after that.
That's the bag that you have for the baby review?
We thought it was cute, and for her birth, we went to, drove up to Aspen. We bought all kinds of bumper stickers and plates and coffee cups and everything like that.
That's what my dad did for my 10th birthday.
Really?
When I was secretary since the 90s, and everybody had their name in their Texas. Got everything with Aspen Redeemed.
My granddaughter has a golden opener too, on the same side, yes.
We're all,
Except her hair's pink.
I did actually have purple hair a couple of months ago.
Oh, okay. My granddaughter's named Aspen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we were just talking.
She's pregnant with my grandchild,
Oh, I was gonna say, is this your daughter?
my daughter-in-law.
Oh, okay.
And that is my son.
samples from 10 different yards of bees to Beltsville, Maryland, B-Lab, and have them analyzed. So what we're supposed to do is analyze them ourselves, write out a report, and then send them to Beltsville, and then give another sample to Carolina, and then she was going to analyze it, and then she was going to compare them. And if we pretty much matched what the expert said, then that was going to be a final. So we're all ready to be done, and then she quits. And let's just create got scared, because only 3 to 5%, I said, that's only, if there's 100 of you, only 3.
That's why I think it's kind of bogus that babies can't have honey until they're 2.
I talked to a doctor about that.
And I'm not like, I thought they could, I mean, they said it's too hard to break down and too
Well,
hard to do
it's
this.
the botulism that's in there. All honey have botulism. Baby up until about 6 months old can't process the botulism bacteria, whatever it is. Just bacteria. And so therefore, it only takes 4 to 8
Yes, we're gonna take this. People are excited to see us come back. It's a first.
It is.
They're usually happy to see us leave.
It's usually grumbles, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I have no idea. So is this it, Jeff?
That's it, Red.
Well, I can understand hanging around Wayne too long could get to you, but come on, man. You didn't have to be around him that often.
A good question for him tonight. Now I'm not going to be able to answer it or ask it maybe. No.
We're missing Dave and Steve.
I'm guessing this is about the.
Well, I looked at it first too, I was like,
Well, she said it was the hunting. I know now. It's just gonna be. So now on to item A.
yeah. No, we have to do public comment stuff.
Monica, were there any signups? Thank you. Don't be pushing. Okay, thank you. All right. Are we on?
Yep, we're on.
Okay. The time is now 7:47, and the executive session has been concluded. For the record, if any person who participated believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into executive session occurred, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I ask that you state your concerns for the record. Seeing none, we will now move on to audience business, which there is no one to speak on that. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Two items on that. Payment approval report in the amount of $225, or $225, I wish it was only $225. $225,630.28, as well as the May 1st, 2018 minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Trustee Strong?
Yes.
Trustee Doherty?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Aye.
President Lofton?
Yes.
Member Hunter?
Yes, and motion carries. And once again, I apologize to everyone in the audience for our executive session. We tried to get through it, but there were important matters at hand. Anyway, we'll move on to report on aquifer monitoring program. Mr. Sanchez. As if we didn't hang out enough with you in the other room.
Yes, thank you. We were asked to provide an update of the alluvial water levels as they have been measured since 2011. Stepping back just a little bit of perspective, the town entered into a stipulation with essentially East Cherry Creek Valley, Rathbone County Water and Sanitation District, and United Water and Sanitation District as part of their previous court cases that resulted in the review of welfare that they have there. Through that process, we established 3 key water levels, which we refer to as the trigger wells, TW11, TW13, and TW14. The intent of those was to establish protective water levels in the aquifer, at which point we would sound an early alarm if there were problems occurring in the water levels in those wells. The concept being that if there are problems, we're going to see them in those wells first before we see those concerns in the actual town's wells. So as part of this process, we went back and looked at the water level data since 2011, acknowledging that for one of those wells, TW11, we have a data gap that we requested information for to fill in the gaps for some of these recent years. The bottom line is that the data show that there has been some water level changes in the aquifer resulting from some of the ECCB well pumping, which was expected and deemed to be acceptable essentially, or non-injurious to the town's wells. But those water levels and the impacts that we're seeing in those wells are not getting near those trigger wells. So when we look at the data, the aquifer is functioning in a sustainable way. Both entities, both the town and the East Cherry Creek Valley United Group are able to pump their wells. We see some noise in the system as a result of that, but it's nothing that's causing any operational problems in our wells, and we're not getting down to the level of those trigger elevations.
That's really good to hear.
So I think you've got a memo that you shared in your report packet.
Yep.
If there are any other questions?
Questions,
about that?
comments? Trustee Ott?
Nothing.
Trustee Doherty? Mayor Pro Tem Lawford?
Thanks for the update.
Trustee Strock?
I have some things on the
No.
test well 14. If you look at the early warning elevation, it's actually wrong compared to the trigger elevation. They're actually completely backwards. Let's see how that is. See, 92, 82 for the early warning, which is down here, and 87, which is up here for the target. So
Okay, yeah, thank you for pointing that out. It looks like we haven't done, so we'll get that corrected.
okay, so I was kind of wondering about that, that and then the gap too. So they keep track of all the figures and the SCADA, is it?
They do. Part of this stipulation requires data sharing. We share our information with them, and they share their information with us. One of the follow-up court cases required extensive studying and modeling of the aquifer system as well. So I think a lot of the data ended up getting funneled into this other modeling effort, which just wrapped up, when that data gap ceased to exist. So we are working with them to get the data sharing in place again so that we've got access to it.
Okay, so they're kind of claiming that they're going to do 47 million gallons a day over there and send it to East Cherry Creek, which is a lot. So when we do hit these triggers, what's going to happen? Who's going to win when it comes down to that? Are we going to be out of water?
Well, the triggers are specifically established such that, one, there's going to be an early warning system, and then we can work together to prevent further declines. But there's some actual teeth in this stipulation. If it gets down to the actual trigger level, they have to curtail their pumping. And in this type of aquifer system, it should respond pretty quickly. If we get down there within a matter of weeks, we should see the benefit of their curtailment of pumping, and that's something that they're obligated to do.
So they'll curtail enough so that we can get our 1,500 acre, whatever it is.
Correct. And there's other options in there too.
Certainly.
It's structured such that they could deliver the town water as a possible remedy, for example. So there's other things that could occur.
It seems like someday it's going to go dry. And my other question was too, where do they mitigate or augmentate the water that they take out over here? Is it up the 70s ranch?
No, the water that they take out, they deliver into Bar Lake through that same BB pipeline that the town delivers our water through. They take delivery of it, and some of which they release down the surface water system, just as the town does. The other part of it, they're releasing currently into 3 recharge structures. There's a recharge structure just below Bar Lake where they force water back into the aquifer. Another one referred to as the 2 Pond, which is just up on 76, and another one somewhat in between. So they've got a combination of locations where they're delivering that water literally directly into the aquifer because they know they have to in order to protect these water
Do you
levels.
think those recharge ponds are really working?
Not as well as they would like them to, but at these levels of pumping and operation, they're keeping up.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Trustee Early?
The business park that's going in on the east side of 76 between 2 and Bridge, is that going to have any effect on these numbers?
I'm not familiar with what that facility is. I noticed that driving up here today, so I'm not sure
It's a
who.
business park.
I don't know the answer to that question, because I'm not familiar enough with what that is. Okay, yeah, if it's served by Brighton, then I wouldn't see it as having any
Thank you.
issues.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Financial update, Mr. Green. This is the latest you've ever had to be here, sir.
Yeah, it is. All right, sorry, I took a nap earlier. So we'll kind of keep this high level here. As you can see, things are still going the way they should be going right now. We got the bond proceeds in during the year. Those came in at 4.6, so at a premium, so that helps out as well. As you can see, I've revised this to break it down so you can try to get an idea of where you're at without the bonds in there. If there's something you guys would like to see different, that'd be more helpful. Open for suggestions. But it looks like we're about 29% of expenditures on the general fund, which is probably about where we should be right about now on max. So this is through April, so it's, what, about a third of the way through, so 29% spent versus 33% of the year elapsed, so we're definitely tracking well there. The other funds seem to be doing what they're supposed to be doing too. We've got some ongoing CIP programs, but those are all budgeted for, so there's really nothing that is unusual in these numbers. So with that, if anybody has questions, I'd be
Trustee Early?
more than happy to address.
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Strock?
A couple quick ones. On that very first page, for revenues, on the other line, all of a sudden it's become
Bond
4.6,
proceeds.
4.9 million.
That's the bond proceeds?
That's the bond?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why you see that. So the bond proceeds going forward, just so you have an idea what they are, what they were. Look down where it says less bond proceeds, that
Oh, I
4.6
got
million.
you. All right.
That's gonna come out, so that delta between the other and the bond proceeds is gonna be what's really sitting in other. It shouldn't be a lot during the year.
Okay, good. Then I noticed on our cash allocations for the Conservation Trust Fund, calls for 92,000, but yet up in the combined cash accounts, we have $483,000. So I was kind of wondering why that's different.
So what I think needs to happen is there needs to be a transfer from the Colo Trust account in that, into a general fund account. Focus on that cash allocation. So if you look down below where it says allocation of 277, that is the true number of what's in Conservation Trust. A lot of that has to do with just transfers between accounts. Because the Colo Trust is not a checking account, we don't write checks out of that. It gets pulled out of the general fund, so we'd need to find a home for that as to where to go, which would probably be, there's gotta be some sort of, probably that Tabor Reserve account or something like that, but it is, Conservation Trust only has 277,000.
Not the 483.
Right.
That kind of confused. The Silver Peak Supply, I know I asked you that before. Did you say those were PIFs?
That's for, I believe, purchasing water within Silver Peaks.
Okay, for water purchase?
Yeah, and that should be up to date. We've been keeping that up to date on a monthly basis as far as what that is.
Future water purchases? I think that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
No questions. Thank you.
Trustee Doherty?
I have nothing, thank you.
Trustee Ott? I have nothing. Thank you, Dave.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
All right. Silver Peaks Metro District.
So Mr. Raleigh, who represents the Silver Peaks Metro District, is here to explain to you what he's asking the board to do tonight, which is really not requiring any formal action on your part, just an acknowledgement that nothing more formal is required to be done. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yes, correct. Sorry.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. I was just here with you a couple of weeks ago, it seems like, on a different matter related to Silver Peaks. And as we were doing some due diligence with respect to the boundaries of the districts, we came across a few issues, and they're kind of outlined here in that letter I sent. But just to give you a better idea of what's going on. In the service plan, I guess I should have given this in a different order. But in the service plan, it basically says that the districts can't overlap except on what they call the initial boundaries of the district. And if you can see that there up in the northeast corner of the project is where the initial boundaries of the district are. That piece is also still within the boundaries of districts 3 and 4.
So when you say the initial boundaries of the district, are you talking about that represents the initial boundaries in each of the districts? I just want to make sure everybody's understanding this, because your first slide said 1 through 7, but really what you're talking about is 1 through 4, not the 2 newly formed districts. Is that correct?
Well, part of it is related to 6 and 7, but the issue isn't directly related to them. So when the districts were originally organized, this property that's highlighted in blue was within the boundaries of all 5 of the original districts, 1 through 5. And those were approved, I think, back in 2000. The service plan says you can't overlap, the districts can't overlap except on this particular piece of property.
Where they're essentially just pancaked one on top of the other,
Right.
just essentially, just to hold them, a holder.
Yeah, it just holds a place while the project develops and you use District 2 over here and 3 over here and 4 over here as things progress. So what we discovered was that piece of property was only in Districts 3 and 4. We also have a situation here in the southwest corner where some property is in Districts 1 through 4 and Districts 2 and 5 respectively. And this property is owned by the prior developer, not owned by Walton, who's currently developing the project. So we ran across the situation in the service plan that says they can't overlap except in that northeast corner. And as we were looking through the records, we found out that they were overlapping up in that corner and down in this corner. And then when we organized districts 6 and 7, we organized them on this lot up in the northwest corner of the project. So right now, that's the boundaries of 6 and 7. And that property is also included into districts 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I know this is really confusing. District 5 is owned by the prior developer, and so that's really has nothing to do with what we're trying to do here. So because the service plan said that the districts couldn't overlap except in that one spot, and then we found that they do overlap not only in the original initial boundaries of the district, but also on these parcels in the southwest portion of the district. We have a situation where the districts aren't in compliance with their service plan. Now, we don't think that that means that it's been a material modification of the service plan that requires us to go through an amendment process similar to what we did when we organized Districts 6 and 7, submit a new service plan, have the town staff review it, come back to you, and approve a resolution to amend the service plan. But we wanted to make the town aware of the situation and say, we don't think as material modification, the intent of the language in the initial service plan was to say, we don't want these districts overlapping on property that's owned by residents, so they're getting taxed 2 or 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, we don't want that either.
Well, and so that, we believe that was the intent of the original language, and currently, that's not an issue. It's not happening. These lots aren't developed, and of course, no one is living there. But we wanted to make sure that the town agreed with us that this wasn't a material modification, and we wanted to let you know that we're in the process of fixing it. So we're gonna exclude the property that's up in the northeast corner from all of the districts, and the property in the southwest corner from districts 1 through 4, yeah, both of those from 1 through 4. So a piece of that will still be in District 5, but again, that's owned by the prior developer. So we're in the process of getting that taken care of. We've submitted petitions to the district court asking for an order for those exclusions. But district number 2 is in the process of getting ready to issue bonds. And so we need to make sure that we're in compliance with our service plan, and wanted the board of directors, or board of trustees, sorry, to be aware of the situation and hopefully be willing to have someone sign an acknowledgement that this is not a material modification of the service plan.
Okay.
So let me just let you know that state law, which governs what is a material modification or not, says that material modification is really only required in the process that Mr. Rowley outlined, meaning the resolution, public hearing, all that. It says it's really only with regard to changes of a basic or essential nature, including but not limited to the following: any addition to the types of services provided by the district, a decrease in the level of services, a decrease in the financial ability of the district to discharge the existing or proposed indebtedness, or a decrease in the existing or projected need for organized service in the area. And approval for modification is not required for changes only necessary for execution of the original service plan or for changes in the boundary of the special district. As you know, we've had that issue come up before in our past. So what they're describing here, which is sort of a boundary adjustment, isn't really contemplated in statutes being a material modification that would trigger the more formal process. And I think, but before Steve or I were to sign an acknowledgement saying we recognize that this is not a material modification, we wanted to bring it to you and make sure you were comfortable with that.
Yeah, so essentially they're just realigning the boundaries to what they should have been. Is
Right.
that correct? So there was a mistake made, and as you said, we don't want to have a home sitting on 4 different districts and getting taxed till Sunday, yeah. So, questions, comments, Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
That all makes sense to me. I just was curious, which one is District 2, the one you said is getting ready to issue bonds?
So District 2 is a bigger piece of property. I don't have a picture of it. But it is basically in the southwest corner from it's really where all the houses are built. That's District number 2.
All of the current houses?
Are in District number 2, yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
All right.
Nothing else.
That's probably the easiest way to describe it.
All right, Trustee Doherty?
So what is the approval look like for this modification then, if it's not material? Is it just
Nothing.
nothing at
As
all?
long as you agree that it's not material, there is no requirement to even frankly bring it to you.
So then, if that's what we deem, then what keeps them from including land that's 20 miles away?
I think if you'll remember in our service plans that we did for 6 and 7, there was a prohibition of including property that was outside the boundaries of the project, which is.
So there is something still that's binding you from changing these boundaries to something that's 20 miles away from town or something like that. There's something that'll catch that. I guess, because that would be my only concern, is making sure that's covered.
Well, I can say for sure that's in the new service plans that you just approved. I don't know about the service plans for 1 to 4, whether that's in there or
That would be my only concern, is because if we set today a precedence that this is not material, that you don't need to go through these, then tomorrow you can go and acquire some land in Sterling and decide that that's part of this district.
I do think that the court rulings in the Barrett litigation would chill them from doing that, because the court did rule that the
Okay.
Sandhills district, once they moved to the 70 Ranch property, way up.
Okay, I just want to make sure we had our bases covered from having that happen again by saying that this isn't material, that's also not letting a loophole to allow that to happen again. That's my
Yeah, and
concern.
if, I don't remember districts 1 through 5 well enough, the service plans, to remember if that's specifically prohibited. I know we definitely put it in 6 and 7. The developer has no desire to do that, of course, but I understand your concern based on things that have happened previously. If there's something we can do to help assuage your concern, we're certainly welcome to do that.
I do also want to note that this acknowledgement that you are asking, which is just really an acknowledgement that, hey, this is not a material modification that requires you to go through a material modification approval process, is set up for the mayor's signature. And so that's one of the reasons, I think, rather than the mayor unilaterally making this decision, he needs to know that the board supports that.
All right. Anything else, Trustee Doherty?
That's my only concern. That's it.
All right. Trustee Ott?
Would it be a problem to put that in the agreement?
That's
That they won't go out of the district, or should I just leave it alone?
I think we would have to modify the service
Yeah.
plans for 1 to 4 to
Nothing
add
further.
language like that.
And we're-
Nothing further.
Or an
Okay.
intergovernmental
Mr. Wall,
agreement.
we can put it on the record
No,
that
we're-
it'll never happen.
Put on the record it'll never happen.
Yeah.
While I'm the attorney for the districts, that will never happen.
Okay. Happy, thank you.
All right. Trustee Early?
Nothing additional.
Trustee Strock?
I guess my question is, why is it so difficult for them? Why couldn't they just say this is Silver Peaks and draw each of the districts on there so you would know which houses are paying which districts? Is that something that'd be real hard to do? Or, because it seems kind of shady to say we got this little corner up here, but we don't know really who's paying 1, 2, 5, 7, 3. You know, whereas if they had it kind of shaded, or, you know, like a map that would show each of the specific districts, it'd be a lot easier to understand.
Yeah, so that map was part of the original service plan back in 2000, I think. And the reason we have multiple districts is to have flexibility for where the boundaries of the districts are going to be, based on how quickly things build out, maybe based on whether or not there's going to be a commercial piece of property. We want a separate district for that. And so if we tried to guess, we would be wrong. So
Yeah.
that's the.
Anything else, Mr. Strock?
No, that's it. But, you know, guess.
Larry
might be
just
future.
wants something to color.
Yeah, there you go.
Something to color. Thank you.
All right, and I have nothing, go ahead.
I guess one last question is, with Larry's point there, how did this happen? I guess, I mean, when you guys go to do 1 and you color in where 1 is, and then you go to color in 2 and you see that they overlap, I guess, what causes this? And it didn't happen just once. From the looks of it, it happened multiple times, like in that lower left corner, you had like 5 of them that are overlapping. So I guess, to me, that would be pretty difficult to miss, but obviously
Right.
not.
So I'm grateful to say that it wasn't our firm that did those. So we're taking over from the prior group, and that's when we discovered it. So, but I think their intention was to take the initial boundaries and kind of move it into that southwest corner. Why 3 and 4 got left up there,
I see.
I really have no idea. We had to go through a big process to try to sort out all of this. And because it wasn't our firm that did it, I'm not quite clear on why that happened.
Go ahead. I have one more tangential question. What are they issuing bonds for?
Streets, water lines, sewer lines.
For the next,
This is for District Number 2, so it'll be for the property that's already built out, for those homes that are right there. So it's to repay the developer for advances
Okay.
they've
That
made
makes
for
sense.
those public improvements.
That makes sense. I was gonna say, they're all there already, so.
Right.
That makes more sense.
Okay. Anyone else? No? All right. I think we're on board
You may
with.
just want to get a motion
Yeah.
from your board that just authorizes you to sign the acknowledgement.
So,
Now, so moved.
Second?
roll call, please.
Trustee Strug?
Yes.
Trustee Doherty?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Walker?
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney?
Yes, and motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, GIS service agreement. Mr. Beback.
Manhart is a company that the town has used in the past to, just for small projects, mapping projects, and, I used them for 2 maps, I believe, last year, and I realized there was no service contract between that company and the town essentially, so wanted to protect those assets that they've created, and that's what the service contract does, it protects the mapping assets. It also allows the town to, it locks in the pricing for mapping services as well. I really like working with the firm. One of my goals this year is to start GIS mapping of infrastructure such as hydrants, and I'll be piloting the Trimble's GP estimate. And the city of town currently doesn't own a program to manipulate that data. Those guys will help us with that initially and manipulate and spit out a PDF version of the maps so I can see. That's
Okay.
that.
All right. Trustee Doherty, questions, comments?
I have a couple of questions. So one, we have a contract with JVA to do similar. Does JVA, does our town engineer already not have this ability?
On the CAD programming, they do, and they've been doing that for us, but on the GIS, it's easier and quicker actually through Manhart to workload against, and Manhart has pretty quick turnaround. I'm not sure if they have a GIS technician on staff actually, JVA, I'm not sure if they do.
Okay, and then, my next question is on their, current hourly rates, kind of their schedule of time. They have some pretty wide ranges there. I guess, I'm not really sure why that would be. I mean, do they not know how much they bill out their employees? Especially on some of them, granted, maybe we're not gonna have a senior planner at all on the project. So if that's the case, maybe we should have that removed, from their current hourly rates, but they go from 125 to 180. I guess I'd like to see kind of these narrowed down to what we're actually planning on getting billed, not a range, and we always get the 180 out of the 125. So for me, to approve this, I would like to see those kind of narrowed down to an actual, what their hourly rates are. I think we get that from JVA, we get that from other design teams that we work with. I don't think we typically see a range like that.
Well, I mean, I think that for the most part, we do see is what they provide what their annual rates are, most of these consultant firms, and then they just always send that and tag it on. And then it's a matter of, for the task orders where we order something, we would be having an understanding before we send a task order for them as to who in this menu, if you will, of experts we would be engaging to do whatever that task order is in that task. I think that's actually more common than upfront identifying, oh, we're only ever going to use survey construction technicians, for example.
I guess that's fair, but I think we still get basically just a single line of what their rate's going to be, not having a wide range.
You mean within the title itself?
Within just the title. So I see your point on, having all these titles there, but I think what we would see from JVA is, their senior project manager bills out at 160 or whatever it may be. It's not 155 and
I see what you're
175, and
saying.
we
Okay.
don't really know what we're gonna be paying them. So I would request that we get that dialed in, and that's all that I have.
Okay. Trustee Ott?
Nothing.
Trustee Strock?
I agree with Trustee Doherty that senior planner and staff planner both have, around the $50 range. The rest of them are all 15, $10, $15. So those in particular should be looked at. That's all I have to say.
Trustee Early?
Nothing.
So, let me ask, would the board like to have this come back? Or, I'm sorry, I forget. No, you're not-
And I actually have something to say.
Oh, no.
Steve, I seem to vaguely remember Dr. Cog has some mapping services that they offer through their organization. And I can't remember if it's GIS or honestly much detail
There was
about it.
some
but-
aerial photography they were doing, but I don't think it would be this type of product they would produce through Dr. Cog.
Okay. I just thought maybe we might want to check with them just to make sure first, because I know they offer discounted mapping, and you're probably right, but.
Question for Randy, did you use Manhart for the sewer line GIS mapping?
No, Martin and Martin did through our videos. They created a map, and then I think Manhart was called something else before that did a little bit of the, what was it? Yeah, they did some of the water systems within town a few years ago, and I think this is just building on top of what's currently there.
And JVA does not do GIS, if not enough. That's all I had. Everything else was, other than the concern, trustee Strachan, trustee Doherty.
Okay, well, let's go this way, just, kind of, do we want to see this come back with some, those issues addressed that trustee Doherty had brought up, or do you want to vote on it?
I would take a motion, move to table it.
Okay. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and we'll table it. If you would get that information to us. And all right, next item is ordinance amending Town of Lockpooly's code, repealing, and readopting for concerning beekeeping.
So I drafted this based on the Aurora regulations.
Yeah.
And I drafted it with very little input, except that you all wanted to look at some beekeeping provisions. And so I had to educate myself on some of this terminology, as you can see, and I put comments on the margins just because I figured maybe you wouldn't know if I didn't know. Maybe you do. So anyway, it's there for us really to throw darts at.
Well, and on top of that, we have individuals in the audience who would like to actually speak on it a little bit. I wanted to have, we spoke about it last time, and I wanted to have a little more education for the board and let everyone get a little bit of information if we could. Actually, you guys, funny enough, the beekeeping or the bee movie that's on your desks, it's really educational. They really do hit on a lot of points. And there's some fresh honey on your table there. So we wanted to have a little more information brought out, especially because there was a misnomer of, I know you had made mention, bees being in your backyard and, too close. And I think even you said you wanted to have one just for your garden or something along those lines. But if we could, anyone want to speak on this, please come up. As I know we have a couple of people here, so please name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Board of Trustees, Mayor, staff. My name is Erin Mahoney. I live at 318 Lilac Drive here in Lockbuoy. I'm here as a citizen and also as a representative of the Lockbuoy Exchange. Our company does some festivals here in support of the town, and we were looking into having a honey harvest festival, and we discovered that bees are banned in Lockbuoy. So maybe we want to start there, and here we are. We felt that it was important to educate our community. In June of 2017, our governor named I-76 the pollinator corridor. Your first reaction is, well, is that bees? What does that mean? And basically, we're acting as stewards, or we should be acting as stewards, to be pollinator stewards, basically. And by that, you provide habitats for pollinators, you plant, as we did April 9th, we had Resource Central came here, we had a great turnout for that. We've had a lot of orders for flowers, and that's a type of forage that you want to provide for pollinators, water, open soil, and we just would like to provide information and education. Currently, Adams County 4-H is offering a beekeeping program that, of course, everyone here in Weld County is welcome to attend at the fairgrounds. That's happening when, Dan? Tomorrow night, actually, just found out about that. But Lockwood Exchange has communicated heavily with the Colorado Bee Association. We've talked to community members here, and there's some honey samples from local beekeepers here in Lockwood on your table there, and we've provided you a copy of the Bee Movie, although I've been informed most of the characters in this movie are male, and that's not the case. Most of the bees are female that do the work. So it's a fun movie, it's educational, and it pretty much covers what's going on with bees. And bees are here. There's over 946 species native to Colorado as pollinators. There's also 250 butterflies native to Colorado, 1,000 species of moths, 11 species of hummingbirds, and just want our community to support that. And we feel that home honey harvesting is important, and it should be open to all areas in our community that are not controlled by an HOA, or if you have a half an acre, a quarter of an acre, or a rooftop, you can have a beehive. And we've brought some community members and also Dan Rao from Brighton Beekeeping Club to speak and answer any questions that anybody has to help you out with that. Thank you for your time.
And I'll open it up to the floor for, you want? Name and address for the record, please.
My name is James Schracky, and I live at 1228 Lilac Drive. I'm very excited about Lockwood possibly adopting this ordinance. It's a good thing. I'm a former city council member of Canyon City, Colorado, and picked it up about 4 years ago, and it was a nice pastime hobby. I like it a lot. It's
beekeeping
relaxing.
or city council?
The beekeeping's a lot of fun. But definitely, I've been stung by my bees, but that's because I'm opening up the boxes. I have kids around my bees. There's all kinds of stuff. The bees, I don't know of anybody that's been stung by my bees, but that's in Canyon City. I just want to come here and show support, and thank you, City Council, for taking your time to look at this. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me, but I think it's a positive thing for the community, and I do think in the future kids will be more involved with beekeeping in some kinds of fashions. So,
all right.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Oh, go ahead.
And I do want to just point out that this ordinance, as drafted based on direction initially, limits beekeeping only to rural residential communities.
Yeah, just to the
Limits it to what?
rural residential, which is the farms here only on the acreages. So, questions, comments? Trustee Early?
He wants to speak.
Oh, you want to go?
My name's Dan Rao. I own a beekeeping store and honey store in Brighton, Colorado. I do a lot of teaching. I'm the organizer of the 4-H beekeeping program that we're starting up tomorrow. We're trying to get younger people involved in it because I'm considered young in this business. So we're trying to get some of the younger people in there. As far as the ordinances, one thing I wanted to point out on Aurora that they had a serious issue with is they required the landowners to all approve it around each hive. So anybody that touched that property had to approve it, and they ran into situations where this neighbor didn't like that neighbor, and they were able to dictate, this guy can't have bees now. And so there's a lot of infighting going on over there. Most of the cities have gone with just, you can have 2 hives on your lot. Now, talk about who has said they have bees in their yard or noticed a lot of bees. Bees, if you put their hive out in the middle of a field, they go up approximately 3 miles out into the radius. So if you do the math, that comes out to 28 square miles. So if you put a beehive in Loch Buoy, it doesn't significantly add to the population because the bees that you're seeing here, they could be coming from Brighton. And as an experiment one year, I marked a bunch of my bees at my house, which is exactly 2 air miles from my yard where I keep most of my bees. The next day, there was bees there with white dots on their back. So they travel a lot. So people say a yard's too small, that you can't raise your bees in it. You're right, you can't raise bees in 1 yard. Yard is insignificant to them, it's a drop in the ocean. So keep in mind that when you put bees out, they're gonna be traveling everywhere. And the bees that you see aren't necessarily gonna be from Loch Buoy, because we've got commercial beekeepers all around here that have hundreds of hives. So, and they can put them right up against your property, and they'll be all over your land here. And the big thing about the bees is they all have specific jobs to do. And starting backwards on their last day, if you see a bee walking on the sidewalk and she's got pollen on her legs, she's working her way home. She can't fly anymore because she spent all her time going in and out of bushes and has chipped away at her wings. But her job is to deliver the goods. She's a forager. The last 3 weeks of their life, they spend outside the box looking for food. That's their job, and they're really good at it. She will walk all the way back to the hive if she can. If a kid doesn't step on her, a bird eater, or if a cold snap moves in, that's the end of her life. The only bees that we have to worry about are the guard bees. They spend approximately 3 days of their life as guard bees, actually 4 days, day 18, 19, 20, and 21. They're guard bees, and they're really good at their job. So if you walk up to a hive and put your finger in the hole, they will sting you. If you walk up to the hive and start bouncing it around, they will sting you, because that's their job. All the rest of the bees, their job is not to sting you, because they're going to die if they sting you, and they're aware of that. So they only sting defensively. So a lot of the myths that we hear about bees being stinging us, about 90% of those stings are going to be wasps, but everybody blames the bee. And you'll see, I think in the bee movie, they kind of reference the wasps in there. The one fallacy in that movie shows them all as boy bees. In a hive, let's say 80,000 bees, only 1% of the population is male. The rest are all female. One queen, female workers, and then a few drones. And drones can't sting, by the way. So, any questions on beekeeping? I say I do a lot of teaching, I do school presentations. I've had a lot of questions asked, and I can answer most of them.
Okay. Trustee Ott?
You know, this meeting tomorrow night is at the Adams County Fairgrounds?
Pardon me?
There's a meeting tomorrow night at the
Yes, at the admin building, set up by 4-H. Julia is the 4-H coordinator from CSU, and she informed me this week that the kids don't have to be from Adams County. We can have Weld and Arapahoe, because we have children that are interested out in Bennett that might be coming in for it.
No, I think it's a good idea, so I'm fine.
We want to get them educated, because there's a huge trend now. People are very aware of bees now. 5, 10 years ago, people just thought bees were something that stung you, and that was it. Now, people are becoming very aware of their importance. Whole Foods did a fantastic thing in 2012. They took a picture of the produce department fully stocked. And then they took everything out that needs to be pollinated. Close to 80% of the food is gone. And then when I teach my class, I show the picture with the full inventory, then I overlay it real quick with the empty one. And I flash back and forth between them, and it's dramatic to see how much food we lose. So people are becoming aware of this, and the trend right now is everybody loves bees. It's one of the reasons I opened the honey store. I've got a lot of people walking in, and they want to sit down and discuss what can we do to save the bees. So it's quite popular right now.
Anything else?
No.
Trustee Doherty?
Have nothing.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
For questions or?
Questions, comments?
No questions. Come back. Let me process my thoughts.
All right. Trustee Strauch?
So out of the 946 different types of bees, the honey bees are about what percentage of that? Maybe 5%?
That's a good question. It's probably a higher percentage because they're bigger and they can overwinter. Whereas all these other bees basically die off during the winter. Only the queen survives. And then she has to start from scratch every year. The honey bee survives, which is why we get honey. And that's the only bee, the only species that actually produces excess honey. All the rest just produce enough for themselves.
So what percentage would you say that is of all the pollinators?
I'm just throwing out a wild guess here. I honestly don't know. But I would say it's got to be in the 60s and 70%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's going to be high.
Yeah, with all the moths and everything else. So I guess my main question, I'm all for this backyard bees and stuff and the beekeeping. I am concerned about what are called the neonicotinoids.
So are we.
And I think that is something that maybe this board should address, maybe at a separate time. But I think it's important to make the beekeeping more prosperous for the people that are doing that.
We're suffering anywhere from 30 to 45% loss every winter. And before 1987, roughly, that number was 10 to 15%. And so we got, insecticides started moving in, but the big thing, 1987, we got mites. That's our number one enemy now. And we're more afraid of mites now than we are neonics.
Really?
Yeah, because neonics, they hurt the hive, and it builds up in the wax. And if a queen is born in that wax, she might come out lethargic. And they're brutal as far as their qualifications. If you don't do your job, you're out. So they will fire the queen.
So, in your opinion, then, would it be worth the town thinking about being a safe town?
There's a whole program. It's called Be Safe.
Exactly.
Yes.
Be Safe.
I can get you in contact with the people that run that. They're based mostly Lafayette and Boulder. Drive Priuses, very organic type people. But,
so would that be,
stereotype.
Yeah, would that be an advantage for us to consider?
It's good because, like neonics, they're important. They do great for the farmer, but they live in the soil. It stays in the soil for 3 to 5 years, and it's systemic, which means it's in the plant. So we're consuming it. The dust that settles in with the soil, because only about 5% is supposed to, that actually goes in the plant. The other 95 goes back into the soil.
Yeah, it's a danger for our children to play on the grass in the parks.
Now, if you talk to the people out in Boulder, to them, that's the root of all evil in the world. Communism and everything sprouted from neonics and chemicals, yeah.
Thank you.
Hitler was born in a field with neonics.
We got the neonics coming.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Trustee Early?
Well, the last 2 years, I've not seen bees in my backyard. This year, there's bees all over my backyard.
It goes in cycles, and it just depends on what the forage is that's available. They're gonna be as efficient as possible. So if you have a hive here and you've got some great forage going on, she goes out, finds it, the forager finds it, comes back, does her waggle dance, which is a whole science in itself. It's amazing what happens during that dance. And then they go over there. She even tells them the quality of your flowers. And then they go until there's nothing left to eat there. And so if you don't have great flowers, they might bounce over a couple of blocks and hit somebody else's yard.
It's actually a crabapple tree. But
Yes, we just planted some for Mother's Day, yeah.
And thank you for
Just
the
for my
honey.
bees.
All right.
One thing about allergies real quick, everybody talks about being allergic. 3 to 5% of the population is truly allergic. We're talking anaphylactic shock, where you need medical help. Everybody else is not allergic. If you get stung, you swell up. That's perfectly normal. So everybody that thinks they're allergic, most of them aren't. My neighbor raises horses, trains them. She had her arm broken, horse knocked her down, stomped her. Next day, she's in a cast. She's showing me her black and blue spots. She's not allergic to horses. That's normal. So if you get stung and your hand swells up like a softball, that's normal. If your throat tightens up, you're in that 3 to 5% that needs danger. So the danger to the population is minimal in that respect. The sting hurts. I got stung just a little while ago, but I'm immune to them now. It doesn't itch or swell up anymore. So.
Right. Mayor Pro Tem Wofford?
Yeah, so as I was processing my thoughts, I think I'm still inclined to, if we change it today, restrict it to the farms, and I think what we should do is maybe put it as an advisory question on the ballot, kind of like we did with chickens and ducks a couple of years ago, and see what the public thinks about allowing this everywhere else. To me, the farms is a different, to kind of be upon, the farms is a different animal. I mean, the whole idea of the farms is that we'll allow this kind of activity, so I think we can take that step as a board right now. If we're looking at allowing this in the rest of town, I really think it's something we should ask the voters what their thoughts are before we make that kind of call.
And I'm perfectly willing, if you want to have like a town meeting or whatever, a Q&A period, come in. I did it for the HOA at Todd Creek, and they missed their vote by 18 to get bees approved in the HOA, but they don't have it prohibited. So therefore, we're going to the Adams County level, which allows bees, and we've got 10, 15 new beekeepers at Todd Creek. And they're hoping if they do vote them out, that they will be grandfathered in.
Yeah, and that kind of spins off of what Trustee Doherty had said before about pot shops. I mean, if this is something we're really interested in doing, maybe having that kind of presentation that people could come and listen to before they vote in November and kind of say, yes, no, this is something I want to do.
It's the myths that we have to worry about, the old wives' tales and myths that are dangerous to the bees.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Hi.
Okay.
I just wanted to. I can wait. James
Hurry up.
Shraki, 1228. Jacob, to answer the comment, the bees that would be maybe on that side of 37.
I'm gonna do a point of information. This is not our regular course of business.
No, you're right.
Oh, right.
No, go ahead. I didn't know what you had to say.
Oh, I just wanted to say
If
that-
you're
comments.
responding, yeah, we're not having the back and forth, so.
Oh, okay, well, I
I didn't know
just
if you had
wanted
any
to-
new information.
So for city council, like the bees are gonna fly over there, bees are gonna fly over there. It's maybe limit the hives to 1 or 2 hives in the farms, but to completely wipe it out because of fear, I guess, never mind, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's move on here. So as the ordinance is set right now, it's limiting it to the farms, so I guess I'll leave the floor open for a motion. If anybody wants to make a motion to do that, go ahead.
I move to approve ordinance number 635, an ordinance amending the Town of Lochbuie Municipal Code by repealing and readopting section 7-6-240 concerning beekeeping.
Second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Trustee Strah?
Yes.
Trustee Doherty?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney?
Yes, and motion carries. All right, next item is resolution 2018-10. Ms. Duran?
Oh, this is the resolution changing your start time of your
Yes.
regular meetings to 7:30 that we brought forward at the last board.
6:30.
I'm sorry, 6:30.
Yeah, don't push us out.
Right, that we brought forward at the last board meeting and that you wanted to know.
Okay. Questions, comments? Trustee Early?
Nothing.
Trustee Strock?
Should it be earlier?
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
No questions.
Trustee Doherty?
I have nothing.
Trustee Ott?
Nothing.
No.
Oh.
Actually, I did have something. I posted a poll on Nextdoor to see what the citizens thought about this, and about 80% said move it earlier or I don't care. So I think we should go ahead and say yes.
Okay.
I move to approve resolution number 2018-10, a resolution of the Board of Trustees for the Town of Lochbuie, Colorado, setting the date and amending and setting the time of regular meetings of the Board of Trustees.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Strah?
Yes.
Trustee Doherty?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney?
Yes, and motion carries. Next item is the DOLA grant.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. We did receive our grant from DOLA for its grant contract. It's for their $800,000 grant award for improvements to our wastewater treatment plant. And so we need to return the signed copies to DOLA. And so it's authorization to sign the contract and proceed with the project.
Okay. Questions, comments? Trustee Ott?
No, we worked hard for it. Let's continue and finish it off.
Trustee Doherty? Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
Nothing.
Trustee Strock?
Nothing.
Trustee Early?
Nothing.
Okay. You have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the acceptance of the DOLA grant contract for the wastewater treatment plant improvements.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Doherty?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Trustee Strah?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney?
Yes, and motion carries. All right, the next item is the Adams County Collaborative Transportation.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. And so Town Attorney Duran has worked a lot on this agreement with the Adams County communities and has revised and redlined. And Trustee Lofgren is also familiar with this proposed agreement, which the Adams County Transportation Improvement Planning Forum is asking all communities to enter into this agreement, which sets forth their process to consider awards for different transportation project monies for the Adams County region that are distributed by Dr. Cog through this new sub-region program they have started this year. It's for the grant award period of 2020 through 2023. So it's a 4-year transportation improvement cycle.
And this is same concept as you approved for Weld County a couple of meetings ago. Basically, it's just a collaboration amongst the jurisdictions within the region to make application to Dr. Cog for the sub-regional funding under their new 2-layered funding process.
The only thing I would add is, Dr. Cog advised us at our last meeting a week and a half ago or so that they are not requiring the IGA, but the Adams subregion very much strongly encourages us to participation in the IGA, to participate in the IGA in order to smooth the process out and make sure everyone's kind of operating on the same terms. So while this is not required, as our Dr. Cog board member, I would suggest that we do participate.
Okay. All right. Questions, comments, Trustee Strzok?
I don't have anything really other than, you know, it's, you're gonna get all these people together to split up that small amount of money, so have to all work together anyway, so here we go.
Trustee Early?
Nothing.
Trustee Yott?
Nothing.
Trustee Doherty?
Okay. And it's actually, the Adams County share is 28 or 29 million, so it is relatively small, but still substantial, and we are planning to submit some projects potentially for funding, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, and I like the participation anyway. Okay, so it's open for a motion.
So I'll make a motion to approve the IGA pursuant to the Adams County Collaborative Transportation Planning Agreement.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Ott?
Aye.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Trustee Strzok?
Yes.
Trustee Doherty?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes, and the motion carries. Next item is a fun one. Since we're losing you, the town has had a little fun with it. And, you know, we're just going to tell you get out right now. No, actually, we have here a proclamation of appreciation, as well as a nice little plaque. I'm going to read this to you first. Right, proclamation of appreciation, a proclamation of the mayor and the board of trustees for the town of Lochbuie, Colorado, recognizing and expressing gratitude to Monica Mendoza for her years of service as town clerk for the town of Lochbuie. Whereas Monica Mendoza was first appointed to the position of town clerk on December 2011, and whereas during her tenure with the town, Monica served as a town clerk, human resources officer, public information officer, supervisor over utility billing and building permit processing, and a multitude of other things. Whereas during her tenure with the town, Monica oversaw several municipal elections, numerous open records requests, employment and onboarding of new staff, and attended a multitude of late-night meetings. We've tried to shorten those, among numerous other accomplishments. And whereas during her tenure with the town, Monica handled the town's transition to coordinated elections with Adams and Weld counties. And whereas during her tenure with the town, Monica served as member of the Colorado Municipal Clerks Association Records Committee, which works to maintain and update Colorado municipal records retention schedule. And whereas, you're doing a lot of things here. During her tenure with the town, Monica provided vital input into the town's designs for a functional brick-and-mortar town hall building, and oversaw the implementation of live streaming town meeting. We are right now, are we not? All right. Whereas the governing body of the town recognizes that Monica's contributions over the years have been vital to the ongoing vibrancy and success of the town. Now, therefore, I, Michael Mahoney, Mayor of the Town of Lochbuie, Colorado, with the support of the entire Board of Trustees, do hereby proclaim the town's gratitude to Monica Mendoza for her cheerful and effective service and contributions in moving the town forward, and express the town's desire that she will continue her career with distinction. So proclaimed this 15th day of May, 2018, Michael Mahoney, and if you would.
Hold on.
We're gonna miss you.
Get out my good camera here. Do you want to get a picture with the whole trustees? Sure.
I think it's more sense for us to come up front. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody just kind of squeeze in. And I'll stand behind her since I'm taller. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll look better for you.
Where's the professional photographer?
We should go up by the fireplace.
Yeah, let's go out by the fireplace.
Somebody just went to the bathroom on live streaming, they come back and we're all gone. Didn't know it was a picture day. Yeah, I know. I could have parted my hair differently. One this way, one that way. I know you're sick. All right. Okay, thank you, Monica, for all your time and all we've been through. And this board and this staff, which you have been a big part of, has brought this town a long way in a short time. We've done a lot of things, and we're going to be sad to see you go. You know, maybe you can come back and fill in once in a while. But okay, let's move forward here. Staff reports. Chief? Yeah, you just did. You ended. Okay, next. No.
So there was the only couple highlights outside our report that I wanted to, well, inside our report, I guess, I wanted to talk about was that transient issue on the report. It's still on there, right? So if you read that, according to dispatch, that is transient as far as temporary assignment, as far as they are in Kingsburg on a temporary assignment, transient, which means temporary or short term.
So the officer's transient.
Yes, correct. So it's not a transient at town hall, it's the officer in that community. So we're still trying to work on trying to get that off. But I do think that it's kind of
misleading.
Yeah. Of course, we know what it means, and I guess it's not services. can have a transient there. You don't know that. So there's that, and then the Chevy Impala, so we thought the engine was, and maybe it is, maybe the engine is bad, oil pump went out in it, and so it wasn't getting any oil. It's all in warranty, they're gonna fix it, so we're good to go.
Good deal.
Other than that, we just keep, our activity keeps increasing as the warm weather gets warmer, so.
All right.
Any questions?
Anyone have anything for Chief?
Actually, I have one more thing to add. So I guess last month's meeting, there was some discussion about some marijuana being dealt or something in one of the parks in one of the neighborhoods. So we never had a call about that. There's never been one instance where somebody's called and said that they're concerned about that. So the first time that I heard about it was that was brought up in a board meeting. So, I don't know. I did do some research. I found out from the school resource officer that, yeah, there's been some talk about that in the last week at the school as well. So we're keeping an eye out for that. But I would encourage when people contact the board member telling you that there's illegal activity, for them to please call us when they think that that's happening. That would help us.
Since I raised that concern, I will let you know, I reread the lady's comment on Nextdoor, and she said she hadn't called the police, and they said, call the police.
Yeah.
Especially if you know that there's drug dealing going on.
Right.
So everyone that was involved in that thread is now aware to contact you if they hear about it
Well,
again.
it gives, and we can always contact anybody, right? We just walk up in the park and contact somebody at the gazebo, and that's fine, but we're contacting them because we've had information that helps us kind of go a little deeper, right? So that's good to know. So, everybody listen, call please.
All right. All right, thanks, Chief. All right, Mr. Beback?
Thank you. Good evening again. Not a whole lot to add, just a couple highlights as well. Happy to say that we are fully staffed. That means 3 full-time employees, 1 seasonal employee on board starting tomorrow. Haven't had a big pool of applicants for the seasonal positions, unfortunately, but we did offer that job to a gentleman, a local guy, and his name is Gustavo, starting tomorrow. Mentioned a pilot program for Trimble GPS unit. Hopefully, I'm hoping to get something going this summer and have my guys trained on it. That technology has become more affordable, in the past 10 years. So we'll be using equipment that's essentially almost survey grade, not quite, but almost. And just piloting that, see kind of what works, what we can afford long term. And I will follow up with the board and let you know how things are going with that. I'm excited about that. Parks, we are in full swing. Like I said, the seasonal helper will help us a lot, especially with the upkeep of the new plants and the turf. This year, subbing out some of the fertilizing and some of these maintenance stuff for the parks, just to get so it happens this year. Streets, paving, this is concrete paving and patching. This is part of that larger RFP that was out a few months ago. So we're starting with the concrete repairs on the 25th and moving on to patching. We've added a couple small patches to that project. So that will be the following 28th. Other than that, everything is going great. I just want to extend a quick thank you to the board for approving monies last year to purchase some trailers this year, and that's been great. It's just trailers, but it's great. We bought a dump trailer, which is super helpful for just cleanup jobs, hauling debris, and another trailer, which I'm looking forward to, is a landscape trailer, which is an enclosed landscape trailer, just like every other landscaper uses. So instead of other guys riding lawnmowers 2 miles to mow a patch, everything will be enclosed, and we'll drive out of the mowers, set up, do our job, come back. It's just more efficient that way. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
And take your comments.
All right. Questions, comments for anyone?
What all are you guys kind of planning on doing with the GPS?
starting with hydrants, just getting those, it's just the easiest, like, easiest way to pick, right? Hey, go out there and upload all the hydrants, just so we can integrate that into our flushing program, which it doesn't exist really. We've done some flushing in the past, but this way, with that data being somewhere, and I can plan better, you know, in terms of what needs to be flushed when. The other thing is just the existing stuff that's already here, you know, starting with the big stuff like booster station, valve boxes, street signs, trees even, you know, stuff like that. We can really go crazy.
We're gonna try to tie it into like a local benchmark as well.
Yeah, there's some, I mean, there's some benchmarks to use, I guess, but I haven't talked, this is part of the Manhart conversation I'll be having. What do we do to kind of get us going? They actually kind of suggested kind of some of the units I should explore, and for about $500, you know, we can get up to sub-foot accuracy. For $500, that's you know, and then that unit is capable of, for additional fees, become a survey grade instrument to the sub-inch. It's just, like I said, we can shoot for sky, you know, but we'll start with the big stuff, easy stuff.
Makes sense. Anything else? That's it.
Yeah, have we heard back from, I think it was Crasco?
Yes.
And what did they say?
And that's, they also mentioned that towards the end of the report. They came out, we agreed on the streets that need to be addressed, and
all under warranty?
yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Anything?
Yeah, I see you have a printout here for King Street in Fletcher. It's great that it's going on at the same time as the school. Who's doing that, and who's paying for that, and why?
Who's doing that? Inertia is spearheading their, or managing their project, and they have several subcontractors in that job. The utilities contractor is Iron Woman, who are laying down the big force main for us. So they actually jumped on that project for a couple of weeks as they finished the sections along 2. The earth movers, are you asking all the subs?
No, actually what I'm asking is the special districts paying
It's
for
Walton
this?
Development.
Or is
Walton Development
paying?
Company is installing that road.
Walton is,
Yes.
that's awful nice of them, so. That's all.
Required.
They're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart.
It was not an option.
Thank you.
All right.
I would throw on top of that, though, that they did move their schedule to do that, so it is good credit on them, because they bumped up their timeline to meet the school, so.
Well, as long as we're not paying for that, I'm just glad they're doing it, so that's fine, thank
Trustee
you.
Early?
I wanted to thank you for moving on the Jake brakes on 4 and the no parking signs. Makes the residents happy.
All right.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. And come on up for your last.
My last one, yeah. I do want to just say thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure to work for you over the years. I know you've been a good client to our company, and it's been fun. So I appreciate working with everybody, and especially the town employees, and over the last few years. And I'm going to miss everybody. So
You didn't bring us any chocolate toilets? What's up with that? Come on.
I knew I should have brought something. I got 2
Well, we
weeks
had to
left.
put up- we had to put up with you.
Yeah, I can bring them back. I don't have a whole lot of updates. The report's in front of you. Projects are progressing, water plant's moving along. Wastewater plant we'll start going a little faster now that the DOLA grant is in place. This week, yeah. Booster station, I think power, if there's any luck, we'll have a meter set this week and try to get that thing going finally. But other than that, the report is there. All the numbers are there for last month. We're staying pretty regular on flow, and water usage was down a little bit this month from last year. So it's all
It's
good.
just funny to hear sewer treatment plant guys say we're pretty regular.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments?
Where's you going?
What's that?
Where are you going?
I'm actually gonna change careers a little bit. I'm gonna be working for a company that sells water and wastewater equipment.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We'll miss
Okay.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much for everything you've done, and everything you tried to teach me, especially. So we have that 20-inch water line going in down on 2, and they're at, what are you gonna feed that with? Didn't you tell me once it was 2 12-inch lines?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so when I go back through this thing too, it looks like we're bidding out a 20-inch line to now go where the old one really was not ever installed. Is that correct?
No, that is the 20-inch you're thinking about, as long as the power lines, where it is installed to where it dead ends at the field. That's gonna be a feeder to, through Silver Peaks Planning Area 4, that'll eventually make it to the new water storage tanks.
So the 20-inch line that went down 37 and turned west down 2 is non-existent.
Correct.
And so are we trying to bid that out to make that connection in the future?
No,
Okay.
JVA had did the reworks on the numbers and the pressures and the flow, and they don't need that line from, it was like from well 1 down 37 over to 2 where the new
Yeah,
line is
yeah.
starting now. They have come up and said that we don't need to do that any
Great.
longer.
Yeah, because it seemed like we put the middle part in.
Right.
And we've forgotten the first.
Right,
part,
yeah,
so.
exactly.
All right,
yeah.
thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Anyone else? No.
Just thank you for your years of service to the town.
Thank you.
Had I
Appreciate it.
known you were leaving, I would have written you a proclamation.
Oh, that's, I really appreciate all the time, and, you know, I know Wayne and the company will continue to be, you know, here for you, anything you need, so, thank you.
I still have your phone number. I'm calling you. Still gonna call you when I have a problem. That's all there is to it. We're just, all right. No report, okay. Steve?
Just a couple reminders. On May 29 at 6, we have our home rule work session at 6 o'clock in the boardroom.
Say that again?
That's a work session to talk about home rule and
Yeah,
people's
okay.
interest in the Charter Commission and the board's interest in pursuing that. Give it kind of a read.
Am I gonna do a PowerPoint that night, or how do you guys want that to happen? Because it's a community meeting, I think.
It is.
Home rule guy.
Yeah, I would think, I would like to do a PowerPoint on the 29th of
So
May.
it's just, you want me to do just a PowerPoint on what home rule, what the process is, what the upsides are, what the process is?
Honestly, I think we should,
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much.
honestly, I think we should have that prepared and then show up. And I mean, if only 2 people come, I think the answer is thanks for coming. This doesn't look like a thing we're gonna do. I mean, is it
Our
the rest
community
of the board?
involvement here has been nothing anyhow. You know, I mean, let's face it, let's be honest about, we have nobody here that shows up for the meetings or anything else.
Well, but I guess my point is.
I've had phone calls on that.
Yeah, I've had people ask me what this home rule is too, but whether they'll show up or not,
Yeah.
I don't know. I still think it's something we want to pursue.
Has it been advertised?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's in the newsletter, or in
I guess-
it's in the calendar.
If no one shows up for the informational meeting, we're gonna have Maureen present to one person and move forward anyway?
Well, you want to live stream it too?
There's 2 people watching tonight.
Yeah.
Does that include your phone right now?
I got an email from someone wanting to know what the costs are.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Come to go.
Well, yeah, well,
I
that's
did,
just it.
but I returned, that's what I
So I
returned,
think
but
we
they're
should
gonna
be
wanna know
prepared for
costs.
both presentation
I think we
and
should be
board.
prepared for
Yeah.
it,
Yeah, I agree.
So the second reminder is on June 12th, we have our County Road 2 work session informational meeting.
Can I ask you a question about that, Steve?
What's
So
that?
I saw in your report, it looks like Joel is no longer our project manager?
Correct. Joel has left with another, he took a position with another company.
Okay.
So I think his last day was last Friday with JVA. And there was a company based up in the Seattle area that he is kind of spearheading, starting up a new office for them in the Denver area.
Okay.
So Chad's going to be the project manager for that. It's, Chad, has worked with this project
Yeah, yeah.
from the initial and is familiar with the design and process. And so we're working now on the pieces for the kind of the bidding process and the contract documents to get ready for that whole process.
They're in really good shape.
We do have a technical meeting with CDOT tomorrow to talk about their project. And primarily to how Lock Buoy Station access connections work with that project. So there are a lot of pieces that are just ongoing right now of individual developers working on different parts of their projects. And, so Lake Henry, as I mentioned, we had 2 engineering firms submit proposals for the work on that. I had called a 3rd firm and they have not submitted on that. So we're doing some kind of reference evaluations of the 2 firms that have submitted. And I'm working with Steve Jeffers and also Chris Sanchez for their contacts in the water industry to help us with that. And I'll probably have Chris Sanchez sit in on at least 1 interview for that project. That's all I have in terms of updates right now.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I saw on one of your 2 reports, Santiago submitted updated.
Yes, they have an updated submittal, and they're also, from them working on the site with existing conditions there and our development code requirements, they have submitted an application to request consideration of, I think it's a list of 5 or 6 variances for that site. It's a variation in some of the technical standards that would typically apply to a greenfield-type site development.
And that'll be at the next meeting.
Yeah, June 5th meeting.
So public hearing from the request.
That's correct.
Anyone else? Any for Steve? No? All right.
Citizens Police Academy is starting, again, we'll have another one this fall, I think it's that big. We are planning to do another for
This fall or this summer?
late summer. I think August.
Good deal. All right. Mayor and trustee comments. Trustee Ott.
The only thing I have is with what transpired in the earlier meeting, and with Lake Henry coming up, I would like to prioritize using that possibly for storage too, if we can. I think that would be a good idea. That's all I have.
All right. Trustee Doherty.
I have a couple of things. We talked, I think, last week about maybe trying to get a hold of the HOAs about seeing if they would be interested in removing the trees that are probably going to just get cut down on County Road 2, to see if there's been any. We seem to be moving on that project pretty quick with a pipeline coming through there, and just wanted to make sure we get in front of that before it's too late. Maybe they don't want them, but
For the water line there.
For the water line,
Yeah.
they're on the way.
oh, they're not?
Not for the water line.
I like how you prefaced that. Okay.
But for the road. they
Yeah,
will
for the
be.
roadway,
Yeah.
they will be.
Yeah.
They're okay.
Fair enough. Well, will the water, how deep is the water line going?
Well, the water line stops at Homestead. So so the trees, the street trees start on east of there, or the east of the end of the water line project.
Oh, okay. So what are they flagging all the way down that for? Because there's tons of markers all the way down. Oh,
It's the fiber that's coming from the existing school down Bonanza to the new school.
how big is that line?
It's fiber, poly pipe.
Oh, so they're not having to cut down trees for that one?
No.
That's good.
No, they're doing directional boring, yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense. I just saw a bunch of markers and they were moving that way, so I figured they were gonna start digging up my backyard. And then another thing that we kind of talked about, maybe this is something we should look at for budget in 19. And Chief, let me know what your thoughts are on this, but maybe getting some of the kind of the emergency posts to put in the parks. I definitely see what your point is about putting lights and making it welcoming, but maybe it would be good to put in some of the kind of the emergency beacon things that people can push if they happen to be near the park or something like that at night and they need a contact emergency. That might be worthwhile. I don't know how effective those really are.
Like you see on a university campus? Is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about? Yeah.
Just to kind of make the parks a little bit safer, potentially. That is all that I have.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
I think most of my things got, other than to suggest maybe the advisory question again, maybe it's something to talk about at our next meeting. The drone issue, I think Maureen had emailed you and I about it. So I didn't know if we wanted to put that on an upcoming meeting. I know that was Marty's concern a while ago, was drones and privacy concerns. And maybe discussing potential ways to regulate drones that don't involve regulating airspace, but instead involve regulating the person that uses them. So that, Maureen had sent some stuff to Mike.
Well, New Greenwood Village just adopted an ordinance that they actually ran through the FAA council, as I understand it, and didn't get a ton of feedback, but didn't also get any pushback. So, more going after beefing up their existing trespassing laws, that kind of thing, and including drones within the broader category of trespassing when they
Invasion of privacy.
invade your privacy. So, anyway, it's a new regulatory approach that Greenwood Village has taken, and they just did it as in last week, I think. And if you want to look at the ordinance, you can certainly.
There was a Rosen report on Today's Show last week or week before last, and he was sitting in a chair in the living room, and he couldn't even see the drone, but it could see him sitting in the chair.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's what this is aimed at.
Yeah. So he said, I think we need to look at this.
And what I'll do is I'll send you out an email with a copy of that approach that Greenwood Village used, and you can put it on for discussion on future agendas.
And then the last thing I had is, and I'm hoping your family didn't leave, I wasn't trying to be rude to them.
No.
I was starting to get uncomfortable with the way we were treating that ordinance different than we treat any other ordinance.
No, I'm with you.
Okay, so please apologize to them, I wasn't trying to cut him off, but.
No, and you were correct. I thought he had some different information. I wasn't gonna let him have a conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Trustee Strachan?
I guess I'd encourage the town board to investigate alternative water supply and storage for our future, because it's gonna be here before we know it. The other thing I'd like to point out is that the Resource Central people that we're buying all these flowers and stuff from is a nonprofit. And so I was kind of curious how we distinguish one nonprofit from another in our newsletter. So that's all. Thank you.
Trustee Early? I was gonna say Marty.
Well, I want to say thank you to Mr. Stamey. We got the 152 Poplar electric light fixed, street light, it's all fixed, so now we got
Well, you
78.
paid for
We
it.
got 78 more
$3.
dollars in the general fund.
Budget's looking better.
I'll be so glad to get a roundabout, I guess, even though I don't like them, because there was another bad wreck out there Friday before last. I want to say there was another bad one there. And then I also want to, again, say thanks to Public Works for the Jake Break signs and the no parking signs, so hopefully that's read in the minutes from the residents that were hollering about that, so thank you.
Just one quick response to that. Please do, everyone on the board, encourage members of the public to come to that public meeting about CR2, because the timing of the project is going to be one of the big things, and the roundabout is probably not coming until next summer.
2019 construction.
Yeah, next summer.
Oh, it's going to be 19.
It's going to be the last part of the project, and that's totally out of our hands. That's federal government and CDOT approval of changes to the intersection. That's the bummer.
Okay. All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at 9:19. 9:19.
Here, Rick, here, Rick.
Should steal my spot.
It's my spot.